Good afternoon. My name is Michael Beckwith, and today we're going to be looking at the Tableau2 data. I will go ahead and share my screen and look at the data. So I'm just going to assume that all that can be seen is the data right now. I'll have to check the recording after. So we're just going to go ahead and look through the data now. You can see here we have all the data. There is 10 columns across. There's 2 incomplete columns over here, so we can just safely ignore those. And there's 2,971 rows. And each row is a separate sale. We can see here the country the sale is in, the region, what state it took place in, the zip code, the city, when the sale happened, what department the sale was in. So, for example, the ellipticals, the rowing machines, treadmills, the precise item name that was sold, how much the sale was for, and how much profit was made off of that sale. And to start us off, we can look at the first worksheet that I created. I just kept it very simple. I wanted to show how much profit each individual item brought. So we go back here, we can check the item names. Each individual item, I made a sum of each item and how much profit they each had. So we can see the Bowflex Max made the most profit in all of the data set. And then the Horizon EX59 was next, followed by the Ergata. I guess that's how that is pronounced. And then at the bottom of the list, we can see we have the Aviron Strong, the Nordic Track, and then the Nordic Track EXP14i. This is my first worksheet. It's pretty simple. And then my next worksheet is the profit map. It loaded in. And then this shows where the profit was made by the state. So we can see over here that the green side is the high profit and the dark red is the low profit. And we can see that New York has the most profit, followed by Pennsylvania, and then Florida, and then Georgia. These are the biggest profit makers out of the data set. And then we can see like these dark red, like Maine. I know Maine has had the lowest profit. And then over here, Louisiana, very low too. And that is my second worksheet. Is also very simple, but it gets very important data across. So far we have profit by item, and then we have profit by state. And then my next one takes profit and measured it across the 2 years. So in the data set, we have 2 separate years that are recorded, the sales date. We have 2020, and then every now and then there's USC 2021. So I decided to include that. And we can see over the years each item, for example, the Bowflex Max from 2020 to 2021, profit and sales have decreased. And you'll notice this is the trend of most items. They have decreased in both sales and profit. But one that I noticed increased was the Peloton tread, and I think that is very important to notice because it is quite an outlier in a set where it's all decreasing by quite a bit. In fact, this is sales in the year 2020 for the Bowflex Max was 69 million. And then in 2021, it was 58 million. So more than a 10 million drop. And that is the same. They all drop, but the Peloton tread increases. So I think that is important to notice. And then my next is the dashboard. I left my fourth worksheet for after the dashboard because I think it flows more smoothly this way. So in this, I have all of my three previous worksheets and how they all interact together. See, we have the years, we have the items, and we have the states. So we can use these to filter. We can say, I just want to look at sales in 2020. And then this is New York sales in 2020, 40 million. And then down here, the Bowflex Max for 2020, they only profited $28 million. Say we only wanted to look at 2020, but just the Horizon EX59. We can check that and we can see where the sales were most. We can actually see right here there was no sales for the Horizon EX59 in that state. Down here we can see the profit, we can see the sales, and then we can just look at that for each individual item, each individual year, and how they can compare. So we can just have a couple of them, for instance. And then we can see down here how they compare to each other, and then we can see down here also how they compare. And that is my dashboard. And this just really shows how the three previous worksheets, how they work together and show the information. And then for my last worksheet, I wanted to show the top 3 earners for state and the bottom 3 earners. So I wanted to show how they compare to each other. We can see here how New York is the top, Pennsylvania followed by Florida, very high, very high. And then when compared to the bottom 3, it's practically negligible how small these sales are. For 2 years, 6,000 for the Peloton tread in South Carolina, when compared to New York, where is it? 7.6 million. So quite a vast difference, and I think that is very important to point out. And for example, Maine, only three have sales and profit, which is quite an interesting point that needs to be made. Very low in Maine compared to extremely high in New York for everything. And then I concluded all of this in my storyboard by first starting with the first one, get across what makes the most money, what makes the least amount of money. And then in my next, we can see which states have the most profit, very noticeably New York and Pennsylvania. Sorry. And then we can switch over to the next one, and then we can look at profit and sales over the years, where we can see that downward trend in each item except for the Peloton tread, very important. And then we can see how they interact with each other. If we wanted to look at a specific item, a specific year, specific state, and then we can look at the top 3 performers and the bottom 3 performers and how they interact with each other. And I think that just shows where I think my story really just lays out all the information to show what we have to work with, and it makes everything apparent. And in conclusion, we can look at all this and we can say, well, maybe we get rid of our sales in South Carolina, District of Columbia, and Maine. They're not really doing much for the company, and I'm sure we can allocate those resources, maybe say to New York. They'd probably increase sales and profit in New York, where they're doing very little in Maine. And think about all that time and money that is being spent just to be able to sell these items in Maine that aren't making the company profit. And I think at the end of the day, it really is all about profit. So why bother wasting all this time and money on low earners? And I think another good point that needs to be made is a decision needs to be made to increase sales and profit, because if we go back to our timetable, we can see that we're going downwards, which is not good. And I think the point needs to be made that the Peloton trend did not go downwards, and I think we need to dive in deeper to find out why. I think this can be looked at from a market standpoint. If something in the media has caused a big boom in sales in the Peloton tread, maybe like marketing strategies, advertisements, I think that needs to be looked at deeper. So in conclusion, we need, well, I just did my conclusion. I think I need to conclude what Tableau has done for me. So Tableau really has allowed somebody to take all this data, this over, what is it, 3,000 data points by 10 columns, 30,000 data points, and made it easily digestible and easily understood. It'd take you hours to look through this and compare them, but if we just simplify it down to this, it's very easy to understand. You can't look at this and say, what is the biggest earner over all of this? But you just look at this, very easily the Bowflex Max. And I think that's what Tableau has done. It has allowed very easily shown statistics and data. And that wraps up everything that I have. Oh boy. It went quite long.